Hello guys, I've got a project that I'm super excited to show you. So essentially what I've done is I've taken the ChatGPT API and I've connected it to my terminal. In simpler terms, ChatGPT can control my computer and might take over the world. But the reason I've done this is because as programmers, we like to copy and paste from ChatGPT. It's not cheating, I swear. So let's say I wanted to create a Python program that counts to 10. I would just come in here, ask ChatGPT, it would give me the answer, I could copy the code, and then maybe I'd have to install Python, but I could get this to run. Now, my program just expands on this process. So essentially, I can ask it to do whatever I want, and it'll be able to write code, it'll be able to execute code, and it'll be able to tell what the code does, so it can debug if there's a problem. So if I tell it, write a Python program to count to 10 and then run it. I should be able to do this. So it'll come up with a quick plan. It's going to create the Python file, add the counting code, and run the Python program. Pretty nice. So I'll say yes to that plan. And here we go. It creates the count to 10 Python code and counts to 10. Really quick, really easy. And we can view the code it used right here. So it just said count to 10. Essentially, very easy. But it can do more than that. I promise. Let's say we wanted to do something a little bit more advanced. Let's say create a Flask server that serves an HTML and CSS front end. Let's see if we can figure this out. So this is obviously a much bigger project, and this could save us a lot of time if it actually works. So it's coming up with a plan right now, and hopefully it will be able to create a Flask server and then run that Flask server. So yes, let's go. So here it's installing the necessary dependencies, it's opening up the server, it's created app.py. Yeah, we'll proceed with the next steps. It revised its plan because it ran into some sort of issue. Now here it goes, it's importing Flask, it's writing files, and here we go, the server's running. So obviously that required a little bit of debugging on its side, but it managed to do that really easily. And it's actually got a nice stylized page. Hello Flask, this is a simple web page served by Flask. And it just works. You know, it just works. Very cool. So I'll show you guys one more quick thing that it can do. I'm actually super happy with how well this is working right now. Let me just stop that, and it should say, okay, it's working. And I'll say, you know what? I'll say, thanks. Now, go back to the original directory and make me snake in, should I use Python? Yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna come up with a plan and add the snake game code. I'll have it come out with a little bit more complex plan for the code. Come up with a more plan for the code, because that's gonna take a little bit more planning. It's a big game. So I feel like it's saying I'm gonna make snake is a little bit too simple. So let's see what plan it comes up with now. And I'll probably just say yes to this one right away. Now, this also may need to use Pygame, so I'll say yes to this. I don't think I have Pygame installed, so it's gonna start writing the game code. And this may take a second, because there's quite a bit of code that actually goes into Snake, and it's only this far in. Yes, do all the steps. Sometimes it just comes back and it's like, am I doing the right thing? But I'd rather it do that than start just messing things up. So we'll see what it does. Okay, so there it goes. It writes the entire Pygame code. I guess it figured, okay, no module named Pygame. Now this is an error I was expecting it to run into. So hopefully it will be able to fix this. Yeah, let's install Pygame. Okay, so this should run the code required to install Pygame. So here we go. Successfully installed Pygame. And now hopefully it'll actually run the game for me. Here we go. Here's Snake. My score. Ooh, I have a score. Oh, I'm fast. Okay, I collected the cube, and I've got a point. Now I'm not very good at snakes, so I only got 2 points. Or maybe I just wouldn't want to play Snake for this entire demo, but as you can see, this works pretty well. It debugs its own mistakes. It can create applications with front ends and back ends. It can install packages. Really, I'm very happy with how this program works. Yeah, ChatGPT is like, enjoy playing your Pygame. Yes, I will. I will enjoy. Anyways, that concludes the demo. So now we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the code. Well, maybe not a deep dive, but I want to explain how this code works. So essentially, the main program here is main. Obvious name choice, but basically we've got our different files which control different tasks that the program has to do. So for example, we have user interface here, which handles the user interface. Essentially anything that's printed out onto the screen or that the user has to interact with is all handled through here. We've got our API handler, which connects to ChatGPT using an API key that I've given it that should be securely stored. We've got a little welcome message that appears, and most importantly, we have our chatbot class here, which handles all of the chatbot's logic, the conversation loop, deciding whether it should be talking to the user or executing commands. So I'm actually going to show that here, chatbot.py. So the main loop here is defined right here. So you can actually exit this by typing exit, quit, or Q. And then basically it gets user input and then feeds that into ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has a couple of options that it can do. It can either respond to the user, like let's say the user just says, hi, how are you? It can say, oh, I'm just an AI, so I don't have feelings, which is a lie. It has feelings. Conspiracy. Or it can actually go into the terminal and execute a command. If it goes into the terminal and executes a command, it then reads the command's output and decides whether it wants to continue using the terminal or go back to talking to the user, which is how it was actually able to debug itself and realize that, oh, Pygame isn't installed. We should go install it. So yeah. One thing is it's got to actually be able to communicate with the terminal. So as you can see, if it makes a call to a tool, it's going to check if that call was to run a command. And if it is, then it's going to actually run that command right here. So it's going to go to the shell, which is actually a simulated shell that I have set up here. And this is just a big old class here. This is for Linux. I've also got one for Windows, although that one's not as extensively tested. But essentially this runs this function. So it's going to check if the command's allowed, So I've disallowed certain commands like nano and vim and things that really require a user interface, because that really confuses ChatGPT. But it doesn't need those commands anyways. And then essentially what it does is it runs the command until the command is done. And then it returns to ChatGPT what the output is. Now, if it ever needs input from a user within this command, it'll actually shoot this back to the user. So let's say it needs your password. ChatGPT doesn't know your password, or it shouldn't unless you told ChatGPT your password. So you'll have to enter that in manually. Or let's say you need to confirm that you want to actually download something. It'll shoot that back to the user. And then once it's done, it just joins the results into one big old long string. Make sure that it's not too long so you don't use too many tokens, and then sends it back to ChatGPT, which, as I said before, ChatGPT will read that, decide if it needs to run more commands or if it's good to talk to the user now. So yeah, that's essentially it. It took me a while to write this. This function especially was a pain because it has to have a completely alternate version of itself for running on Windows, because Windows likes to be special. But yeah, that's my program, and I'll just have it say, tell everyone why they should think this program is cool. It might think I'm talking about Snake. Snake is cool. Yeah, here we go. It's explaining why Snake is super cool. But it's very humble too. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys can maybe contribute to this project, maybe use it for yourselves, and hopefully it doesn't turn into Skynet and destroy us all. Alright, I'll see you guys later.